It's in the mind we see what's happening in today's world in terms of violence, separation. We see greed. We see, so mind witnesses that, and intellect through we are able to see that, and yet heart knows deep down that we are one. When we look into each other's eyes, we see this non-separation, and so how do we move towards that? How do we find hope? How do we remind ourselves?
What do we see really? I think it's not only mind. Mind is in a way patterning it to certain conditioning how we look at the world and things. Because you can see a certain thing happening in different ways also. You can perceive it with the heart and still at the same time being in a way shocked as a human being that we are able to do to each other, these atrocities. At the same time, as I said, you can look at that with a heart of compassion. And what you are saying is maybe more that we have the one or the other perspective. You cannot say to look with the heart, it's a perspective. It's when a multidimensional way of looking at things, and the other could be more separated access. So first of all, I'd like to say a few words about that, and then how to bring together in us unity that is in a way dancing on different frequencies at the same time. And the question is where we have to focus. It's not so much the one or the other, it is where we are rooted in and from where we look at. Well, first of all, when we look outside of the world, it is always that we look with our senses, with the eyes, perception, and at the same time there is the conditioning that makes our seeing in a very specific way seeing. There is a Zen word, seeing without seeing is real seeing. And this in a way means that we have first to understand how we perceive things. And some scripture says it's more than 90% that we see things according to our conditioning. So, if our conditioning is in one side very colored, we might see a disaster happening in a very dramatic way, filled with emotional clouds in it, which is a very different perceiving, looking at the same thing with the eye of the heart, that just loves everybody involved in that what is happening right now. So that is, I think, a very important hint maybe to how we see things. So in a spiritual path or non-path, we learn to recognize how we look at things, how we perceive things, and how they are tainted by conditionings and our senses that only see in a particular way. They don't see the totality of the moment. It's a selection. So that is one thing. And maybe to bring an example also, when you have the newspaper, we are focused on the black alphabets, all the different A, B, C, D that makes words that makes a sense, that gives us a kind of information, and then we see we are completely absorbed in this information from the printed, but we don't see the white paper where all that is printed upon. We completely lose the sight of the white paper, which is fundamental, because without the white paper, no black, figures, impossible. So most of the time what you are saying, what we see in the world, we see just the black information and don't see behind the white paper as an analogy. Now, learning in a way to be able, in a multidimensional way, to be rooted in this screen, empty screen, white paper, and on top of it, look at the information, see the pictures. We are maybe involved in daily life, gives us a balance where we are part, unseparated, in an unseparated way of that what is happening, because there is no separation. And in this context, there is an unbelievable compassion for all the participants in it. It's like the one that are the doers and the ones that are suffering from this doing. There is a compassion for both. And at the same time, there is this calmness, because in a deeper understanding you see that in the whole, or through immanent, transcendent, through the picture, that can never be hurt, that is never coming, sustaining and going, but that is just pure consciousness. So that is an art, to be able to see the beauty of the world and the shadows in the world that we create, and also the abysses, and not being afraid of it, being willing to look at it as, it is not separate from you. It has also deep inside something to do with me. Knowing the beautiful parts in myself and the atrocities, the abysses, the shadows in myself, being at peace with it, gives me the strength more and more, also the collective shadows or of the total humanity, to look at it, to witness with it, with this deep compassion. And that is transformative in itself.